Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. We're going to continue talking about breastfeeding and possible breastfeeding issues and solutions. So I started breastfeeding my baby when I would have been 33 weeks pregnant, and so that was 5 weeks after she was born. So I was pumping breast milk with the breast pump until then, exclusively. My breast milk supply was coming in nicely up to around for the first 2 weeks. It was increasing nicely, but then I hit kind of a point when it just didn't move from there, and I was not making enough. I was making enough milk for my baby because she was only getting such a tiny amount, but I wasn't making as much as I should have been making right at that point in time. So that's when I started to take fenugreek and blessed thistle to try to increase my breast milk supply, and it did work. Like, they did increase it, and I was using them on and off for the whole time while I was breastfeeding. I tried going to the doctor and asking for prescription medication, because you can, to increase your breast milk, and she did. This was after a while. I was trying to pump every 2 hours instead of every 3. I was also increasing the pumping time to up to 20 minutes, even though there was nothing coming out, just to try to get my body to realize that I need to produce more breast milk. And these are all the things that you can obviously do to try to increase your breast milk. You also need to drink a lot of fluids, which I always, it was never an issue for me. You need to eat good, and I was eating pretty okay at that time. You need to reduce your stress. That didn't happen. My stress level was just going up and up as the baby was in the hospital, and then obviously your sleep, you're supposed to be sleeping okay, but that was just not happening with pumping. And so I got the prescription medication, which increased my breast milk to the max that I ever produced, which was 30 mils on one breast and about 15 to 20 on the other. And I never ever went over that. So that was my max that I ever produced. So, and I was with the prescription medication. Well, I was on the lowest dose of the prescription medication, but they didn't want to, like, my doctor said no when I asked for her to increase it because of the possible side effects. So I actually, once I took the baby home and started to exclusively breastfeed and not pump anymore, I actually stopped taking the prescription medication, because I was getting a lot of side effects and no more benefits of it. And I was also hoping that exclusively breastfeeding is just gonna increase my breast milk, but that didn't happen. So when I started to breastfeed her at 33 weeks, it was like, she was obviously extremely tiny, and she was still 2 months preterm. So they didn't want us to go for a long time. It was only just once a day, and it was only first they were trying to you know, make sure that she doesn't get too tired while she's breastfeeding. But she was doing really well. Like, she was doing really well. It was, for me, really hard to get the latch, to get her to latch good, and it wasn't. It was us. An issue was that she was so tiny, and her mouth was just so tiny. It was really hard to get in, because you want to get in the nipple plus the area around the nipple, and lots of the times she only got in the nipple, and I was due to the fact that she was so small, and also for me it was hard to catch the moment when she really opened her mouth wide. You know, like, it was a practice that you kind of had to go through. So you had to practice catching that moment when she's opening up wide enough. It was so awkward when we were trying to practice this moment, and there was always someone there, the nurses, the lactation consultant, and someone, and you know, like they were I was holding the baby and they were just trying to push her on me when the moment was right. So we trying to have, but it was just, for me, it was just really awkward, and I really hated that. I really wanted it to be private and just be me and my baby, and I hated that someone was always there trying to help, even though I appreciated the help and I did need the help. But it was just, I couldn't relax into it, you know. I never had issue with breast milk starting like that. I was leaking all the time. Babies are so good at breastfeeding otherwise, that at least mine was. Like, everyone was always so surprised at such a tiny baby at such a, you know, 2-month preterm is so good at breastfeeding. But and later on, as we progressed, they let her breastfeed for longer periods of time, and then we went on to breastfeeding twice a day, and later on for 3 times a day. There was a big issue for us, because with us they actually measured how much milk she's taking in, so they can give her the rest through her feeding tube. And we realized that even though she's breastfeeding for such a long time, and she's obviously getting milk and she's swallowing it, because you could tell, like, you're obviously trying to see if the baby's actually getting in milk, and you can see that she's actually swallowing, but also if she gets frustrated, she's not getting any milk, right? So she was getting milk, but she just wasn't getting enough, even though we were going on for a long time. And the lactation consultant actually suggested a nipple shield, and she said that because the preterm babies are so small, and mine was especially small, that they have a harder time keeping the nipple straight in their mouth, and the nipple shield helps with that. And so we started on a nipple shield, and that made all the difference in the world. I was using the nipple shield for quite a long time, so for the whole time while I was in the hospital, and when we came home, we were still using the nipple shield for quite a while. I tried without the nipple shield from time to time, and I could kind of see if she was getting enough milk or not. And so at one point I realized that we don't need the nipple shield anymore, but up until that point it was really, really helpful for us. And so I'm just gonna jump to the point when we finally brought the baby home and I could breastfeed. So at that point I was way too tired to pump and breastfeed. So breastfeed, and then basically she got every milk out when she breastfed. The only point of me pumping after that would have been to try to increase the milk supply even more, because she got every milk out, and then I had to also warm her up formula to finish her feeding, because I wasn't producing enough milk by the time we actually brought her home. And introducing formula was really easy. Like, she took onto it really easily, but it was hard to digest, so she had lots of tummy issues once that started. So I was exclusively breastfeeding at that point, because I was just way too tired to pump as well, and I just didn't see the point, because I don't think, it just looked like no matter what I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna produce more milk. It's been 3 months by that time, right? That I was pumping and trying to increase my milk supply. And actually my breast supply dropped dramatically after I brought her home. And again, I was at the point when I wasn't really sleeping like every new mom. Actually, my stress level was pretty high up, just because I had a baby and I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't drinking enough, and I wasn't eating enough, because she took up so much of my time that I just kind of didn't have time to eat and drink as much as well as I should have. So we were using a lot of formula at that point. At night, the night feedings were really hard for us, because she fed she was tired and she felt so comfortable on the breast that because usually, okay, so usually I breastfed her and then I gave her the formula. But at night it started to be an issue because if I breastfed her first, then she usually fell asleep on the breast after about 10 minutes without getting enough food in her, and then she was up half an hour later because she was still hungry. So what I started to do is just limit it to 5 minutes of breastfeeding, and then she got the formula, and then I put her back to the breast, and then she fell asleep on the breast. And that worked, but obviously it didn't work to actually increase my breast milk supply, and that's why I should have started pumping to kind of try to keep it up because she wasn't getting all the milk out at that point. But I just couldn't, I was way too tired because we were already waking up every 2 hours to just feed her, and I just didn't want to spend another 10-15 minutes of pumping. So I kind of gave up at that point, not on breastfeeding, but on increasing my breast milk supply. I was breastfeeding her for exactly a year, but after 6 months she wasn't really getting much milk, and it started to become to the point where we breastfed, but it was more of to relax her and just because she needed the whole breastfeeding experience and not for actually feeding her. That was the formula. We were feeding her with the bottle with the formula, and that was actually for feeding, and she was using the breast more for relaxing and falling asleep on whenever she was just tired or you know, for comfort and for sleep. It was all fine since I wasn't producing enough milk, but I did want to get all the benefits of breast milk and breastfeeding still for my baby. So I think even the tiniest bit of milk that she was getting out until the end of that 1 year did help, because you have that pressure that you just want, you know how good it is for the baby to breastfeed only, and you're just trying so hard to get the baby to be able to breastfeed the baby exclusively, and once you accept that you can't, then you need to add the formula, and it's okay to add the formula. It gets easier on you, like stress wise. And she still, as I said, she was still getting the benefits of breast milk, because she was still getting breast milk even if in the tiniest amount. And she got the whole bonding, we got the whole bonding experience with breastfeeding, even when she was just on the breast for sleeping and calming her down. Actually at 3 months old she decided, like this was 3 months after we brought her home from the hospital, that was 3 months, she would have been 3 months old, she decided that she doesn't like formula, and we just had to switch to solid foods without actually giving her solid food. So I was making her a smoothie that was kind of giving her hopefully everything that the formula would have, and we had to like stop giving her formula. She was still breastfeeding but not getting much from the breast, and she was doing a lot of basically she went from the formula to a smoothie. It seems like this is a very common issue with babies, that they just who are formula fed, that they just don't want to eat the formula. After a while, no matter what formula you try, they just don't like it, they don't want to eat, and you have to transition into solid foods a lot sooner than the 6 months that they recommend. So for us it was at 3 months old, and I'm gonna talk about that later on. But anyways, if you can breastfeed your baby, breastfeed your baby. If you need to add formula, don't feel guilty about it, because you need to add formula, and she gets a lot of benefits even if you only have a smallest amount of breast milk to give to the baby. It's better than nothing. And this is where I'm gonna finish this video with breastfeeding, and I see you guys in the next video.